Welcome to the show that brings the living experiences of black men in the UK in a dialogue of equals with health professionals from the NHS and community advocates to reduce health inequalities affecting our communities.
Me and my unks had a dialogue of equals. We're tired of all our people dying before they seem to. Silence don't make you peaceful. So many open wounds, don't even know how we'll heal all. But this is food for thought of a meal. It might be a free course.
Please note that my contributions on this episode is based on personal experience of statins. However, we always encourage brothers to seek advice on their own health and well-being from trusted healthcare professionals. Right, greetings, and a continuation of our session. We've actually got today, we've got some of the men that were in our health group that originally helped us to set out the podcast.
With lived experience. I know you hate that phrase, but with lived experience is really important.
Lived experience or situated experience, right? They've lived it, they've done it, and we're going to talk about it today.
Yep.
But before I do bring them in, if I may, talk about a personal experience I myself had.
Floor's yours.
So this session is about that term that I find hard to say, over-pharmaceuticalization.
Boom, you done it.
There you go. And what that means is, right, that, well, big pharma and GPs giving out too much medication.
Yeah.
But we believe it's too much medication because we believe in holistic therapies, and also prevention is actually better than cure.
100.
So before I want to go and get medication, I want to know what I can do for myself. So I like to regularly have blood tests and such just to make sure that my body's working as it should be. And recently I had a blood test, and it came out really good. My bloods are fine, apart from they said that they saw some signs of cholesterol.
All right.
And it was a really interesting conversation because I'm saying to the doctor, okay, you see cholesterol, what are we going to do about it? And the doctor immediately said, we're going to put you on statins. Whilst I'm talking to him on the telephone, I'm actually Googling to see what statins does. And I can see a range of side effects. So I don't understand why his first point of call
Can I just pause there?
will be statins.
We hear this a lot. Statin. What are statins?
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a whole different argument. It's medication that when you talk to your GP, he's going to tell you it's going to help to control your cholesterol.
Right.
Now, I don't want to say that GPs are misleading people, but GPs are misleading people because the statins are really not about cholesterol. Because if your cholesterol lowers, they're still going to keep you on the statins.
Okay.
They've got you on statins because NICE, that's the National Institute for Clinical Excellence, has said to them that we now need to manage risk. And this is all about risk management. And the risk that they're really managing is the risk that we might have a stroke or we might have a heart attack.
Okay.
But what I've subsequently found out is that even though they're going to give out statins to everybody, and the reason why your doctor's going to offer it to you is because it's part of the what they call the QOF.
Quaff.
Quality Outcome Framework.
Right. Never heard of it.
Again, now I think NICE helps to establish that. The medication that's in the QOF, the GPs, that's primary care practices, will get paid every time they prescribe.
Okay. So it's a money thing then. Let's just cut to the chase here.
NICE would say there's not a money thing. I mean, they're obviously encouraging doctors to do this, but NICE are really concerned about people who get heart attack and stroke,
Yeah.
which is fair enough. But the problem is that in giving us these statins, only one in 30 people are going to actually get the benefit of this. And my concern was I might not be that one person.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm relatively fit and healthy. So my concern was I'm not going to be that one person, and I didn't want to have the side effects that this medication can cause, because those side effects are not nice. And as we know, when they give you medicine that gives you side effects, they then give you more medicine to manage the side effects. And that's why we're talking about over-pharmaceuticalization.
Right.
Okay? And that's why I want to bring in some of our guests in a moment for them to talk about their experiences of being offered these medications, whether they took them or not.
Right.
Right? So, John, Hassan, and Hesketh, welcome.
Welcome.
Really glad to see you and have you here today. all sitting around looking very serious. But what we want to do today,
And slim.
and trim. And what we want to do today is what we normally do. We want to talk about your experiences of the healthcare services. So I think I'm going to start with you, John. All right. I understand that just like me, you were offered statins previously. But even before that, are you on any medication that you need to take for long-term conditions?
I'm type 2 diabetic, so I'm on metformin, what they give many diabetics. But they also gave me these statins because they said my cholesterol was high. I changed my diet, and blood pressure, whatever they test you with, went down. So, but the statins was giving me the side effects. It was aching in my muscles.
Muscle ache. That's one of the
what happened. So I stopped taking it, and then once in 2 years, it went up again. And the first thing they said is, we need to put you back on statins. And so I'm a questionable person. So I said, so why, if it goes once up in 2 years, is the first thing you do is want me to go back on statins? I'm not doing that because it didn't agree with me before. And now it's quite stabilized. So it was about me changing my diet. Okay. But I always find, I have this dispute with because I've been on metformin for many years, and my logic might not be everyone else's logic in that if you've got a headache, you take a headache pill and it goes. Why am I on metformin for over a decade and it ain't gone? You know, the diabetes. Yeah. And then they tell me it's about diet, and my diet is good, and I watch what I do in terms. I do a lot of different exercises. So I just don't know why they want to keep me on medication all the time.
I'm intrigued. When you talked about the conversation that you had with your doctor,
yeah,
I feel that a lot of people listening, a lot of people watching do need to be informed about the medication that they're taking and know that they're part of the decision-making process. How are you part of the decision-making process? Obviously don't go into detail, but just talk us through how that conversation transpired where you said, no, I'm not doing this.
For the statins or where they then say they give you this medical blackmail, I call it, and you might get a stroke or a heart attack.
Wow.
And that's what they tell you. I go, so
there's a real pressure selling tactic going on there.
In the back of your mind, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, am I going to get a stroke or a heart attack? But touch wood, I didn't. It might come sooner or later because I'm getting older, but I'm not going to take the statins, and I don't think I've been affected by not taking statins.
Because the worrying thing is, you described some of the side effects, you described some symptoms. Now, in the green room, Hassan's telling us a story. And I just want to bring you in here, Hassan, because it's a very, very compelling reason why we need to feed back really, really loudly, really, really clearly, and make it basically abundantly firm in your doctor's mind that this is how it's affecting me. Just tell us this story.
About when they tried to put me on statins?
No, it was one which you were talking about the side effects of medication.
This is actually a friend of mine's partner.
Right.
He was put on statins. He was a 55-year-old man, strong man. He spent a lot of time walking around London, exploring London. He packed up work, he'd been successful. And he spent a lot of time taking long walks through London. He'd go to Turkey on a regular basis and walk about. And he had some angina. So they said, right, we're going to put you on statins. He went on statins, and gradually after some months on statins, he was getting, as John was, aching legs, aching muscles.
Right.
He was finding it was a struggle to keep his arms up to wash his hair. He couldn't walk for any distance, couldn't walk up slopes when he was, all in a matter of like 6 to 8 months. So he went back to the doctors and said that he's coming off the statins. He didn't. He stopped taking the statins.
Right.
And he started recovering, started getting better. His partner said he was getting back to himself. And
now, just to underline there, this was before consulting with his doctor. He came off independently.
He just came off himself, yeah.
Okay.
So then he went to the doctors, and his cholesterol started to go up again. And they said, you've got to go back on the statins. And he went back on the statins, and then he got all sorts of things. I can't remember exactly what it was they were checking him for, but it was some sort of a nervous degenerative disease they said he had.
Wow.
As well. And some months later, within 4 or 5 years of being on statins, from the start, when he stopped, went back on, he was dead.
That's worrying. Very worrying.
He was dead.
I mean,
And then because a friend of mine, she wrote this all up. She being a copy editor, she wrote it all up and sent it to the BMJ, and they published it. They published the whole of his story
As a case
and
study.
then at the end of it, his doctor, who came in to treat him pretty much at the end of his life, she also added a bit at the end, which kind of enforced everything that's being said. That they need to keep a close eye on people who are on statins because they see these side effects, but they don't do anything about it.
But like I say, more important, listen to the person on the statins because he who feels it, she who feels it knows it.
Absolutely. And what I was interested in, we're going to come back to you in a moment, Hassan, is when John spoke, John said it went up again, which implies, you said that your cholesterol went up again and they wanted to put you on the statins again, but that implies that the cholesterol went down at some point, right?
Yeah, it went down, but that's because I said I weren't going back on the statins, and then it went down, and then I went to test again, and they said, "Oh, it's all right now," and I said, "But that was without me going back on the statins. It became all right."
Okay, because with me, what my doctor said, I said, if I do take the statins and the cholesterol goes down, what happens? And my doctor cheekily said, well, you carry it. That's just evidence that the statins are working and you'll remain on the statins for the rest of your life. And when I said, well, why would I possibly be on medication for the rest of my life? I mean, I'm a very young 64. Why would I be on medication for the rest of my life? He laughingly said, because of your risk factors. And when I said, well, what are they? He said, your ethnicity. You're always going to be black. And I said, I hope so. And then he said, because of your age, right? You'll only get older. And again, I said, I hope so. So I've left my doctor. I mean, he actually was very insistent and sent the statins to the pharmacy. And then the pharmacy phoned me to tell me that the statins were there. So I've collected them and I will collect them. But I'm trying to do alternative as well. So I just need to know that there is hope that we can get the cholesterol.
Can I just say about the age thing? I said that to the doctor as well. They're telling me about this, that, and I said, when you get older, you don't get healthier normally. Usually something does happen in your life. But when you question the doctor, I find they don't like you questioning them. Because he got a bit strange when I was arguing about, the metformin, about the statins, as if you have to because they're the medical experts.
And that's another issue, right? Sorry to cut you, but that's another issue, right? Because as a community, we don't necessarily have high levels of trust with the healthcare sector. So we rightfully ask questions, right? And then there's an experience that if you ask questions, the doctors, they kind of dismiss you as being difficult.
Yeah, the tone changes.
Right?
The whole tone changes.
Right.
You're right, they do.
And that feeds into this difficult relationship that black men have with the NHS. And that's why we require this podcast, so that they're clear that we're having what we believe is a real dialogue.
To be fair, Stafford, you say black men with the NHS, right? But I religiously told me what they told me to do, which is I took my metformin every single day, twice a day. But they still wanted to give me more. And what they do, if they say your sugar's not more, they give you another tablet on top of the metformin. And then, as someone else said, then they give you another tablet to combat that because they said it affects your kidneys. So, you're balancing what tablet to take and not what to take. But I took my medication religiously, except the statins.
And you still do, right?
Yeah, and I still do, yeah.
Okay. Good, because we want you to be around, but we only want you to take medicines that your body actually needs. Because for everything you take in, there's got to be some kind of consequence, and that's what we call side effects. We'll bring in Hassan now. I mean, again, really condolences to the friend of yours who lost her husband in such tragic circumstances. But again, in your story, he stopped taking it and actually felt better.
He stopped taking it and he was finding energy again. She said he was getting back to his old self, but his cholesterol went up. Now, I suppose the question really is, would you rather live with high cholesterol or die with low cholesterol then? Because that's what's happened to him. And had his quality of life went down and then he passed away. So
when I looked at statins, some of the side effects was muscle weakness, muscle pain, erectile dysfunction.
He couldn't sleep at night. He could only sleep on one
Yeah,
side.
there was something about
Eventually, he used to sit up all night. He wouldn't go into bed because he said when he went to bed, he couldn't breathe. He was struggling to breathe when he laid down, so he had to sit up all night. And this is all from he started taking the statins. This is what started happening to him.
I'm intrigued. I'm hearing from you that there was a level of communication that leads me to believe that you're well informed as to how he was as a person speaking out.
Yeah.
But what was the conversation like with his doctor? Because it does sound like two things happened there. Either he was very passive and took everything that the doctor told him and basically just relied on him to be led by the doctor, or the doctor was very, very close to, and you touched on it when you said close to another opinion which contradicts an expert's opinion. I mean, which one was it?
Well, as I say, I've only read what was published in the British Medical Journal, and she didn't explain how it came about that he actually went back on it. She just said that he was put on it. He had all these symptoms and he was feeling terrible and not losing his strength, and he came off it, started getting better, but his cholesterol went up, and he went back to the doctor, and they told him to go back on it, which I just think he shouldn't have gone back on it. He should have said, like, you know, with all these how it's affecting me, it's worse than the cholesterol was affecting me. But I don't know why. I don't know what made him go back on it. I don't know what the conversation was with his doctor to let him go back on it. I don't know.
I can imagine if your cholesterol is raised, your doctor starts talking about heart attacks and strokes. There's going to be some concerns. And my concern with my doctor was really that he didn't talk about any alternatives whatsoever. Exactly. Instant. I mean, my cholesterol, I think it was 7. I said to him, well, what's the normal range? And the range is 1 to 5 or 1 to 6. I was just outside the range. It's not as if I was, 10. So I was twice as likely to have a stroke or something. So what I wanted to hear was, what could I do in terms of taking responsibility, in terms of lifestyle changes that might then impact on cholesterol? And as I recall, your doctor told you that you were 6 and wanted to put you on statins.
Because we were discussing prostate, I realised that I'm there discussing prostate for months, and I've never had the PSA test. So I went to my doctor and said I'd like to have a blood test. So they said, right, we'll send you, and they're going to do my blood sugar, my cholesterol, whatever else, and never mentioned PSA. So I said I want the PSA test. So they said, oh, you've got to speak to the doctor first. So this was at an appointment with the nurse, but she called the doctor up and said, and the doctor said, all you've got to explain is if the PSA is raised, it doesn't mean you've got cancer, and if it's normal, it doesn't mean you haven't, but it could be an indicator. So they sent off. So when it came back, I called for the results. They said everything's good, sugar's good, PSA is good, but the doctor, you have to speak to the doctor anyway. So I just thought, what's this about? So the doctor said, straight away and said, oh, everything's good, but your cholesterol. So I said, when you're going to try to put me on statins there? She said, yes, we're going to put you on statins. I said, you're not going to put me on statins because she said, oh, what, have you got some, you just dislike taking tablets? I said, no, but I dislike taking tablets what I don't need to take. Because she said, my statins at level 5. And I said, surely 5, so I was at 6. Yeah. I said, surely 5's okay. So if I'm one level raised, surely I could do something myself with that. Absolutely. She was like, well, yeah, you probably could. So I said, well, I want to do that before I go on any statins. So I just refused to do it.
Hassan, it does sound as though you're very proactive in terms of requesting the PSA and seeking that out. What was it about that made you so adamant that you had to have it?
Well, because we're part of the group that has been discussing prostate.
Okay.
And it seemed like everyone else in the group had done the PSA test and I hadn't. So
right. So the importance of dialogue is definitely evident in what you just said there, and that's what we need more of in the Black community. We do need to talk about this because there's a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of misinformation, especially when you're talking about prostate. There's a lot of misinformation, and I think that it's with groups like yours, it's with dialogue, and a dialogue of equals is where we're starting this in terms of the conversation, but it's this ongoing conversation that needs to happen, and what you're doing there, I suppose, is underlining the need for that.
Yeah, to go and tell your doctor you'd like to get tested for prostate. Because when you go and you say, I want to go and have a blood test, they don't include prostate automatically in it.
And sometimes I think that they don't include it because it's not in the quaff, right? And again, I don't want to be
maybe they haven't got a tablet haven't got a tablet to put in you.
I don't want to be disingenuous to I don't want to be disingenuous to GPs and such, but they're not getting paid necessarily for
Are they being disingenuous with us?
Right? Well, there you go. So we have to demand, and that's what this whole series is about, right? Ultimately, it's about us taking responsibility.
Because not only do they try to give you statins, but every year they send you for a flu jab now. Do you want to come and have a flu jab? I've never had the flu jab, but I don't get the flu. If I get a cold, I get better. It's like, why would I need the flu jab? But they keep on sending out every couple of months now. Every month or so, they'll say, you've not had your flu jab. I don't take the flu jab. And also on top of that, they're also offering you a COVID jab as well. So it just seems like there's lots of jabs they want to give you now. They wanted to give me also one.
A lot of it is about
65. They want to give you a shingles jab.
Is there a monetary, from their point of view, incentive to offer these? Because it does seem as though that this has been prompted by something.
We've heard that there is, but I don't know. I've heard there is, but I've not had any.
Again, it sounds as if all this is slipping into that area where they're managing risk. So there's a risk you might get flu, right? And there's a risk you might get serious flu and end up in hospital and fill up the hospitals. There's a risk you might get. And any time that there's a risk, then there's pharmaceuticals. Nowadays, the pharmaceuticals to manage it. Because big pharma, pharmaceutical companies, they're now in this field of how do you identify and manage risk. And that's what's ultimately giving people statins is about. You're managing the risk of one person in 30 having a heart attack or stroke. And obviously a heart attack or stroke for that person is going to be significant. So if you're the one person in 30 that it protects, that's absolutely brilliant. But if you're not, it's about all the other side effects that you get whilst taking this medication that ultimately isn't doing you much good. And again, the key for me is about taking responsibility, finding out what we can do as individuals to make those lifestyle changes that are going to have a real effect on your health going forward. So for me, it's about diet, it's about going to gym, and it's about exercise.
Hesketh, in terms of our knowledge and those listening and those viewing, gout, just break this down for us.
Right, gout is, for myself and other people that I've known have had gout, one of the most excruciating pain that I know females can about. It's mainly males that I know, and what they say it's like having childbirth.
Wow.
Pain.
But Hesketh, when I think of gout, I think of medieval England. I think of moats, and I think of mead. Right. Are you telling me in the 2000s we're experiencing gout?
For sure. You say they used to call it the rich man's disease.
Yes.
Right. People like Henry VIII and stuff like that, as you say. But
that's based on the amount of wine and
cheese
right?
and anything. My parents used to call it high in instead of eating just sort of lamb, you'll eat beef, and beef is a bad one.
Right.
Cheese, eggs, too much. The quantity, obviously.
Alcohol.
Alcohol, wine and
beer,
beer, whiskey, and so. But the thing is, it triggers. Because my brothers have got it. Different things trigger different people.
Of course.
Right, and that's where the pain threshold comes. That as I said, it's this idea of the crystallization of uric acid that comes in the joints, and they kind of rub against the nerves of the body. And when they do it, you can't. I'm saying to you, when I've had gout on my toes, I'm looking at people from 20 meters away that they don't touch my toe, or if I get it on my elbow or my finger, I'm looking at them from far,
right?
Because of the pain that you can be taken. If the slightest touch, you can't even have a blanket if you've got it on your toe. I'm talking about a blanket, just to cover your feet, because when that blanket rests on that toe, you're in serious pain. So, that's the gout side. And as I say, with the doctors, they give you something to kind of balance it in terms of your intake to cut down the uric acid. And like you said, when I got to do my research about gout, I found out that I got to know more about the gout than my doctor. And when I was trying to tell him about it, they sort of say, you can't know more than us. That's the feeling I've got. I said, doctor, well, alpha-purinol, and there's this thing. It's made out of crocus seeds for the pain, right? When you get it to that level, the pain gets to that level that nothing can really take it down. All the kind of strong painkillers can't take that pain down. But where there's a very expensive drug, which is made out of crocus seeds, I think it is, it's called colchicine. I just remember the name.
Right.
So I've used it for a while because I haven't had that pain threshold, right? And then the doctor not quick to prescribe that. When I found out about it, I said to him, Doc, I'm in serious pain here, and they was even on the telephone. And I said, I need this colchicine prescribed. Try this, try that. And that was like an alternative, because I think that one is more organic than the pharmaceutical ones.
What I'm hearing, I don't know about you, Stafford, but there seems to be a theme emerging here, and that is the doctor is not going to prescribe you an alternative. It's almost as though the go-to is tablets, tablets, tablets. And I just wonder, are they actually listening, or have they got it already in their minds as to, this is how I'm treating this, and it's definitely the go-to is tablets?
I think one of the problems that we have as black people, especially with GPs and such, is that they're not necessarily dealing with us as individuals. Right? So they're thinking about what happens in the wider population. They're doing some calculations around risk.
One size fits all?
And then they're diagnosing. Absolutely, one size fits all. But we know that one size doesn't fit all. And even if one size did fit all, it probably wouldn't fit us. Yeah. To the viewers, thank you for listening.
Take a step, go, get checked. Want the best for you, no less. Stubborn head, make it make sense. NHS before it goes left. Me and my unks had a dialogue of equals. We're tired of all our people dying before they seem to. Silence don't make you peaceful. So many open wounds, don't even know how we'll heal all. But this is food for thought of a meal. It might be a free course. You know the usual 9 nights and funerals, high and by at the graveside like time is recuperable. Ignore the treatable symptoms, these will cause a domino effect. You won't make it home to the loody board. Take a step, go, get checked. Want the best for you, no less. Stubborn head, make it make sense. NHS before it goes left.
Any information provided on our podcast series is for educational purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice. We advise listeners to consult a medical professional or healthcare provider if they seek medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We value different opinions and experiences in our program, and any information shared by our guests should be seen as their personal opinion. We have guests who are medical practitioners, but we do not have a medical doctor on our production team. We've added extra information from reputable sources on our website if you want to inform yourself further. We strongly advocate for everyone taking responsibility to inform ourselves about our health. We cannot be liable for risk or issues associated with using information discussed during this program.